Alrighty, guys. I've decided to drive down to one of my fave recording spaces. Let's get down the street real quick, real simple. I got the mail carrier coming down the street. I was actually trying to dodge them because I feel awkward sitting in the car. Dude, okay, so and now is about the time when the honor students are walking from the high school over to the middle school. So it's about 10:15 a.m. Tuesday. I haven't posted dailies in a while. I'm debating if I want to, just to get me out and about, and just to kind of get a little bit of a different I don't know a little bit of a different focus. I don't really know though if that's really what I want to do. I'm trying to stay focused but engaged in a variety of projects. Did I mention? So I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment right now. They're supposed to call at 10. Last time I did a 10 o'clock doctor's appointment, I think they called me at like 10:40, like 40 minutes after. So I figured, I'm just going to be waiting on the phone anyways. So I might as well just hit record, and then when the call comes through, I'll be available. And just get off the property, go down the street. I'm really trying to get my energy kind of up. Kind of just like see if there's something kind of fun that can be done, something to kind of like get the energy rolling, something simplistic. I'm kind of wanting to plan a little birthday for a friend. Not like fully. I don't really know if I'll really do it, because I don't really know if they're gonna say yes, and I don't really know if they want to do it. I really don't know if I want to do it either. But I might, just because I don't know. There's some people I kind of want to see, but I feel like if I don't plan it or try to plan with them, they're not gonna plan. So I don't know. And I can tell people are struggling. I don't want to make things like complex or impossible for people, or more stressful. Just keep it convenient. But I think it's possible to have like some convenient fun. I'm in LA, so it's not like it's that hard. But especially since the weather is now a little bit more decent, it's not like too crazy. It's a little bit easier to kind of just get out, walk around, not really worry about the heat too much. I'm just kind of, I think Sunday was an energy dip day. Monday went really well. I had coffee Monday. That was nice. And then I got it from the Japanese market, and I've still got that same coffee at the moment. And I kind of skipped breakfast. I don't know if I would consider it fasting, but it was purposeful. I did wake up around 6, maybe 6:20 or so. And right away, I had a friend that has a birthday today, so I wanted to send out that text before I got too busy. A lot of birthdays this month. Um, oh man, the place where I wanted to park, there's like this gigantic trash truck. But I might be able to park out in front of one of these buildings. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, in the mornings it's kind of interesting. I do feel fine when I don't know. I do think I'm not saying like I don't eat. Like I'm not saying I promote not eating or like skipping meals and stuff. Not in like an unhealthy way. Like I'm literally sitting here with like snacks available. Like I have a little container here, a little baggie with like I've got 3 boiled eggs and 2 little slices of some sandwich pieces from that from those Japanese snacks. So it's not like I'm like, you know, not able to eat. Like I could literally just start eating this stuff right away. And that was the whole purpose. I don't know if I like this parking spot actually. I kind of want to go park at my other spot. I might go park at my other spot. I don't know if I like this one because I'm right in front of somebody's building. I don't like being in front of like other people's windows and stuff. I don't know, I feel weird about it. Let me go park at the spot where I was originally gonna go. But yeah. This break of mine has been, you know, a learning period, a recovering period, definitely a period of trying and wanting to, you know, have a lot of, what would you call it? Like, trying to gain some insight into some things. And not overdoing it. Like, for me, resting is hard, which is kind of, I know it sounds stupid. Like, it sounds like, who says that kind of thing? Like, oh, I have trouble resting. But I do. It's like, when I'm up early, I want to just be up, even if my body and mind are, like, not ready for it, you know? And, I think it does backfire. It's like, I want to have the energy. I can force myself to kind of have the energy, but it's not like a legit energy, because it's like, you know, I am kind of like low on energy sometimes. Like, not, and I'm not trying to make this like into some like depressing thing. It's just the reality. It's like, sometimes I feel like, you know, it's easy to be like, it's easy to try to say, you know, it's easy to try to say, you know, let's just have like a basic, kind of understanding of things, and like, you know, sometimes I don't really get there on my own. Like it just takes a while, and I think a lot of us have learned over the recent years how important mental health is. It's like, it's almost like if if you're suddenly missing a limb and you haven't been using, you haven't been trained to, like, you know, move around in the world without that limb, like, people can have an arm missing or a leg missing or whatever and still accomplish great things. But if you aren't used to it, it's going to take a while to kind of get to a place where you're kind of like solid when something starts going wrong. That's kind of how I see it. It's like, for a lot of people, it's almost easier to understand like the physical world instead of like the mental, the spiritual, the emotional. A lot of us aren't trained to really like deal with that, but it's like, you can build up different tolerance levels, different strength areas in those places in life and see results. But it really takes, that kind of tolerance, to being able to sit with things and work through things. And just like when you're at the gym, like if you haven't gone to the gym for like years and you don't walk or stretch or anything, that first day back to the gym is going to be like, you might remember what you used to be able to do a year ago and be all gung-ho about it, but your body's going to be like, dude, I'm not on board with this. You got to build up to a level where you can kind of tolerate what you were able to do before, and and keep it so that you're not injuring yourself, and keep yourself balanced enough within those early workouts so that you can still continue and not have to take like a week and a half off every time you go to the gym. Like, go to the gym for like 3 hours one day and then like you can't go back for like 2 weeks because you're too sore and maybe even possibly injured or pulled something or overdid it. But then some people really like that push, and then some people don't. I've really gotten into like, boot camps and those challenges and things. Even if I make them up myself, I find that to be like a helpful thing. Like, with work, I told myself, I've got that 30-day limit. That mark hit on the 15th. No, sorry. That mark hit on the 13th. I'm paying attention to 30 days and 40 days. I think so. My 40 days is going to be right the day after autumn ends. So autumn starts, fall, the month of fall, the season of fall for 2024. So fall starts on September 22nd, and then September 23rd would be, I guess, the 40-day mark. Now, I use those marks because of, science kind of teaches, and spiritual realms kind of, spiritual teachings kind of talk about that 30-day, that 40-day, where there's like a 30-day where a lot of times people in the 30-day, they get, a lot of times people in the 30-day, that's kind of like the period of change where people talk about, if you're working on something, then 30 days is going to be, when you start noticing that kind of change. And 40 days, you hear that in the Bible a lot, or the number 40, like with the flood, with Noah, or even with Moses and his time frames of like from when he was, he had like a period of 40 years and another 40 years and another 40 years. Like, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. The 40 years before that, something else was going on. But basically, those periods of time, 40 can be a big marker too. And there are a lot of books out there that have like, I went through the 4 agreements. I don't know if I broke that into 40 days. I think I broke it into like, it took me like multiple months. But just doing projects like that and stuff kind of just tells me where I'm at. It's like, okay, if I can't do like a prayer thing or like some kind of meditation thing or a reading thing or a breath work thing or a learning thing or a teaching thing or an exercising thing, you know, those are kind of like, or like some kind of healthy eating habits, like trying to make something healthy in those areas, and I'm struggling with it. It's like, why am I struggling with it? And not being like, why are you struggling? Like, you shouldn't be struggling. But trying to look at the process and being like, what is happening here? Like, because I do want to do this. I do want the results. And I know that to get the results, I'm trying to do certain actions and behaviors and changes within 30 to 40 days. So why is it not adding up? You know, why am I not doing it? Why am I skipping days? Why am I half-assing it? Why am I not fully in it? You know, is it like a self-sabotage thing? Is it like a depression thing, anxiety thing? Is it really just an energy thing? Am I not sleeping well? Is it some basic nutrition thing? Like, what is it? Like, what is it that's going on? And what is it that I can do? Can I do anything, or is it not possible to do anything? What should that look like? You know, how should I address it? You know, what should be happening? You know, and maybe some days I don't know why yesterday wasn't as strong, or why 3 days ago wasn't as strong. You know, I might never come to a full conclusion. I think I came to the conclusion about Sunday and these other days, because I haven't been having my caffeine in the morning. I haven't been waking up having coffee in the morning. I've been trying to eat first and see if I could absorb nutrients for different levels, like iron levels and things. I kind of was learning that, you know, caffeine affects absorption. Now, this isn't like medical advice because I don't really know much, but I just read it somewhere that caffeinated beverages and caffeine in general can reduce the amount of nutrients that your body's absorbing. And so either having that 2 hour buffer before or after, like, it's something with metabolism. I really don't understand it fully. But I think it would be worth it to me to look into that kind of thing more. Because it's important to me to learn. But yeah, there is something about me that, you know, when I get out of the house and I'm in a different space, it is easier for me to like drive down the street and sit in my car and record. It's weird. I know it's weird. I know it's odd. You know, I know it's not like a normal way to spend the morning, but I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy sitting under a tree in the middle of the city, chilling in the car when the weather's pretty decent, and just recording episodes and trying to dig into my mind and see kind of where I'm going, where I'm going, address things, see if there's any improvements, see if there's not any improvements, see if there's any barriers. Sometimes I can be my own barrier, and I'm not trying to like be mean to myself, I'm not trying to be like, oh, like I'm a terrible person because I didn't do that perfectly, just observing the process and being like, okay, like it's not the time that I don't have, because sometimes I say to myself, if I had more time, at the moment I have all the time in the world, and that's not the issue. The time isn't the issue. It's the energy, the motivation, the focus, but what it is that's affecting my energy is the part that isn't super clear to me. Some days I do find myself maybe feeling a little more negatively than I would like, but I know sometimes that it's like, okay, if I'm kind of observing what I'm feeling negative about, it's not anything current, and it's not anything about my future. It's mostly about the past, or like predicting things that I really have no um um predicting things that I don't really have full data to really back up. So saying things to myself like, I know how tiring this is going to be. I know I'm going to be exhausted if I put in that kind of energy. I know I don't have the energy for this, but it's like that will stop me. Those kind of thoughts can stop me from even like starting what I need to do for the day. Because it's not that I don't have the energy, it's just that I think that the energy is not going to be there, or I think it's not going to make me feel better, or I think if I skip whatever my goal is that I'm working on, if I skip it just for today, that's not going to make anything, it's not going to make a big difference. What's one day? But when you think about 30 days to 40 days, that's really not that long. So skipping one day out of 30 days, um, let me see. If I even do a percentage on that, dude, these doctors really aren't going to call anytime soon, are they? That's about 3%, 3.33% repeating. If I skip 2 days, then that's about 6.66666, percent. If I skip 3 days, we're already at 10%. And so 3%, 6%, and then 10%. 3 days is already like 10% of the days remaining, of the time. And it kind of depends what you're talking about. Like sometimes there's just not going to be the energy there. Sometimes it's just not going to work. Sometimes it's just not going to happen that way. Sometimes things just aren't going to happen as planned. So, yeah, I don't really know. But, sometimes that's just kind of how it goes. And sometimes it's just, trying to figure things out, trying to figure things out, and fine tuning. And some days for myself, it's honestly just going through the motions. I can just go through the motions, not in a bad way though. Sometimes it's like painful going through the motions, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had the energy and wasn't just going through the motions. And then other days I'm like, I'm going through the motions in a different way. Dude, that was like the coolest Rolls Royce that just drove by. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I just like sitting outside, people watching. I got the trash truck, the sanitation truck parked behind me, and I'm parked in the shade. They're parked in the shade. One of the workers is out taking some phone calls, doing some stretching. There's another worker kind of chilling in the car or in the truck. So, we're kind of sharing a similar space. There's a Carl's Jr. right here. The buses seem to take their breaks here. Whenever they say not in service, they kind of like take a break, and like there's this red zone spot that they seem to always park in. So I don't know if they're taking their breaks or what they're doing, but it's a red zone that they're always kind of parked in. So it's kind of cool to just be like out in the city. It's chill during the daytime. I'm enjoying the daytime. It's nice to be outside. The freaking workers, the gardeners, my neighbor's gardeners are gonna come in a while, so I'd kind of rather stay out here till like 12:30 or something. Um, I'm thinking about it. I didn't. Oh shoot! I didn't bring my wallet. Um, ew. I don't know. I didn't bring my wallet. I don't know if I'm gonna need my medical record number. Oh well. Um, but yeah, I just you know, sometimes it's hard to look at the bright side. Sometimes it's hard to look at things and practice gratitude. Sometimes gratitude feels forced, but sometimes it helps to write it out. Like I like to message my friends. One of my friends, his mom had a birthday, and I messaged him just like, hey, just like happy birthday to your mom. And I felt good just for remembering her birthday, and like it's not hard to remember because it's near one of my other family members' birthdays, and so when the years that I can remember, I try to just wish her a happy birthday through him, and then it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like I'm glad I know nice people, good people that I've met over time. This friend's mom isn't maybe like my absolute favorite person. I'll put it this way: I I knew her on a level of her being my friend's mom. She was cool. I made a bad decision to get involved with her on a business level, and then I realized that was a mistake because I didn't like working with her. I didn't like how it felt working under her. I didn't like her as a boss, the way she kind of was in the professional world. And for years I kind of thought it was me, but then I had another friend get involved with that same person over the last like 3 or 4 years, and they were kind of not happy with it. And I had another friend get involved with that friend who hooked him up with a job, and they kind of had like a falling out or some kind of situation. And I've kind of learned, don't go into business with friends. Don't get job leads from friends whose other friends have opened up businesses and go work for them. And so, like, I don't know. There's just some stuff where it gets sticky. Sometimes it's best to not dive into those situations because there's so many. It can be hard to have good boundaries, and it can mess up relationships. And I feel like this person's mom, outside of a business setting, she's very generous, very like, oh, sleep over, oh, stay over, hang out, come over anytime, like takes me out to dinner and lunch and stuff with the family, and like hang out with all the brothers and everything, and like very welcoming, very hospitable. But as a boss, not the same person. And you know, I learned that that's just how she is. I think she's a wonderful person, as the friend of my friend's mother, as a friend's mother. I like that role for her in my life. As me being her employee, I did not like that role. I wasn't always getting paid. I was getting underpaid. Um, she didn't treat me well. She was too busy, unorganized. I don't know. I don't need to go into it. It's not, but I learned it was my choice to take that job, and it was my choice to stay working under her. And I did kind of try to voice my opinions about things and kind of express, but there was only so much I could express because I was like, I don't want to damage this relationship. Like, I really like my friend. So, fast forward, to this week, it was the mom's birthday, and I was like, I just want to wish her a happy birthday through you, kind of thing. And he was just kind of cool, like, hey, how you doing, kind of thing. And it was kind of cool to check in with friends, and I was like, how am I doing, because sometimes I don't think about that. And then I was like, I do think I'm doing pretty well. um I am in a reevaluation period, and hashing out a lot of things right now, a lot of goals I'm trying to kind of figure out, and that whole thing. But I wouldn't say I'm doing bad. I'd just say I'm in a period where things are going differently, maybe than had been expected, or differently than I thought they would go. Um, and so, um, because things were going differently, I just kind of, you know, I'm kind of taking a little bit of risks, not in a bad way, but I'm taking a little bit of risks right now. Um, I just want to be a little more diligent with my with how I'm planning things out, and not turn the risk into too much leisure and too little. I don't know if it's like not being productive enough, because I feel like I've often in my life been productive enough, and then overly productive to a point where it's like I'm constantly burning out. And so I don't think that level of productivity has worked for me. Not in school, not in jobs. It hasn't worked for me. It's always backfired. Um, so being less productive doesn't feel right. I can tell that I'm being less productive, but it just doesn't settle right with me. It feels like so unfamiliar. For example, doing things like trying to rest more in the morning when I wake up too early, and I'm calculating, hey, I went to sleep at 1 a.m. and I woke up at 6. I only slept 5 hours, you know, and knowing that, and not being like, hey, let me wake up and pound the coffee and then get my day started, and just being like, hey, I still need like maybe 2 to 3 hours more of relaxation, and giving myself that, because that's what I might need, even if I don't fall back to sleep. Just kind of forcing myself to be like, well, I'm just gonna lay here till 8 o'clock. You know, that's not normally how I would do things. Normally, I would be like, okay, I didn't sleep enough, but it's morning, let's go. It doesn't matter how tired I am. It doesn't matter if my body's like, just shut your eyes and go back to sleep for a little bit, just take a nap. I would try to override that with some kind of substance of some kind, coffee or something like that. Usually coffee. I don't take like speed or anything like that. I don't take meth or like anything that's gonna kind of like be a problem, but like I don't take anything that's gonna like. Okay, I wouldn't say I don't take anything, because C4 is a high level stimulant. It's a pre workout, but do I always use it as a pre workout? The honest answer is no. Sometimes I don't. Like, some days I don't fully work out when I have that stuff in my system. And so, yeah. That means I'm not using it properly. Because it is supposed to be used for workouts and for maintaining gains, and um, getting your energy levels up while you're in your workout and everything. Um, I don't think this doctor's office is gonna call. They're like, it's like so late. It's like 50 minutes past the call time, so I don't really know. Well, I'm gonna snack and then kind of keep recording after I snack. I'm not gonna record while I'm snacking. But I'm gonna keep recording after the snack, and basically just sit here and record until I need to use the restroom, and then I'll go home. Um, and I'll have some snacks in my system because I haven't eaten. This is like pretty much gonna be brunch. But I did have my coffee around 9:45. I started having some coffee today. So, I've got a bunch of stuff I need to post, so that's probably what I'll do when I get home, is work on posting. But while I'm sitting here, I'm probably going to record all my postings for this week, hopefully. I don't know. It's easy to say, but let's see if this doctor even calls me. But yeah, did I explain the gratitude? So I was basically just trying to say, like, when I was talking to my friend, catching up, I was explaining how I'm doing, and I was like, yeah, like, it helped me realize, how am I doing, like, I think I'm doing well, It's just how I assess if I'm doing well. I'm trying to adjust those standards, and I'm not trying to adjust them so that I'm lazier or worse. I'm trying to learn how to adjust in a way that's beneficial to me, so that I'm not like burning the candle at both ends all the time. I can't, that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for me anymore. I'm 41, I don't want to be like aging and looking like I'm like 60, because I'm not taking care of myself. And I can't take care of myself if I'm burning the candle at both ends. Like, yeah, on occasion that's gonna happen, but that can't be my lifestyle. I can't have a lifestyle of like shortcuts. A lifestyle of let me sleep less and drink more caffeine. A lifestyle of let me skip workouts, and instead, what am I doing instead? Maybe watching YouTube or lounging around. It's not like I'm doing some other productive thing, because that time is set aside. And then if I'm having a pre-workout, it's almost like that energy's set aside. Like I've adjusted my energy to meet the demands of a workout, and then it's like sometimes I'm not even doing it. So it's not true that I'm not doing it though. It's just I'm not doing it as much. Like, I'm talking about Sunday. But yeah, I think I've learned now that, not having coffee in the morning, I'm not really going to get going. I'm not really going to get going if I don't have any caffeine in the morning. And so, that's kind of just how that is. Like, what's the person gonna do? Like, you gotta follow the laws. The health laws. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I can do to bypass that. And take shortcuts. But if you've been heavily in the academic world in the United States, like once you start getting the higher level education and stuff like that, you start being around people, professors, psychiatrists, psychologists. Like, I've known so many people in the medical field, nursing, whatever, who, yeah, high level of success, but it comes at a cost for a lot of people. That's where you start seeing people taking, like, I had a friend who took, I don't know how many types of vitamins and things to try to cut corners. Like, they had like a baggie of all these different kind of pills that they took, and I could tell they weren't functioning well. I've got other friends that I know who take a whole lot of like different kind of supplements and things, like tons and tons of them, you know. And there are like, modern Western medicines. I'm not trying to tell people what to do with that kind of stuff. I've seen people benefit from it so much, and I think I would benefit from some of it too, but there's just a part of me that's like, you know, uh for myself, I don't know yet. I have tried, I'm not going to say I haven't tried any modern medicine, modern Western medicines. I have tried, and it backfired with the side effects to the point where it's like, that's why I'm, having a doctor's appointment today, or supposed to, that I think the appointment isn't going to happen. But things like that, where it's like, you know, um, you know, those kind of corners can only be cut for so long. I'm not saying that getting a prescribed medication is a bad idea. I'm just saying, like, sometimes with the world of supplements, getting certain things might be a bad idea. And I'm gonna back up a little bit, because that trash truck left, and I'd kind of like a little more cover. I think my wheels are touching. This should be fine. I didn't get to back up as much as I wanted exactly, but so that's kind of what I'm learning so far. I mean, to try to take it slow and readjust. I mean, what's 30, 40 days out of a year, to see if I can get some leverage out of it and set myself up for success. I do have my health. I do have time. And I don't want to say money's not an issue, but it's not an issue. It's not an issue in a way that it might be for some people. And that's not a bragging thing. I'm just saying, I've lived so frugally for so long that I've had set aside money, and then just working where I was working, I've had funds set aside, that's always kept me, ever since I was living with housemates and stuff, that's always been what's kept my stress levels low, is having money to a point where it's like, if I've got to up and go today somewhere, I can do that. Like, I'm not saying I could fully move and go buy a house or something, but I could, if I had to get a room to rent somewhere, my credit's in a decent enough spot. I'm in like a decent enough spot, where I could just do that. So I'm not really too concerned, because I think that's one of the most stressful things, is when people have to work when they feel like they can't, and I'm not saying like everybody needs to be taking time off all the time, but it's like, I've never really done something like this where I've been taking time off. I've needed it for sure. Like, I've needed it before. I've been like, dude, I am like struggling in a place where it's like, I'm not sleeping good, I'm not eating right, I wasn't doing anything that I needed to do health wise for months on end sometimes, probably multiple more months out of the year than not. I was making unhealthy decisions, and I felt like I was making unhealthy decisions, and I could tell, and it wasn't good, but I felt like I needed to, therefore I did. And that's kind of the American way. For some subcultures in the US, that's kind of the American way. Like, that's why I mentioned, like, coming from academia, those kind of worlds where you're kind of like around people who are very studious, but studious and overworking to a point where you're not making healthy decisions on such a consistent basis for so long. I mean, yeah, when you're young, maybe that sacrifice might be worth it, but it's like I'm not getting any younger. You know, I look at my energy when I was like 20 years old. It's like I would wake up. I wasn't 20 in grad school, but I was in my 20s and part of grad school, I think. And I would wake up at like 5 in the morning after who knows if I slept that well at all. Wake up at 5 in the morning, study before class, take a class, go to school all day, park off campus, walk to and from courses and stuff. I'd be out and about, making friends, having friends, studying late on campus, drive an hour and a half back home, sleep however much I did or didn't sleep, wake up and do it again. I did that for years on end. And I loved it and I liked it. I had community, people who were also doing the same thing. We were kind of in it together. I have friends in the military, that kind of had their own, you know, lifestyle where it's like a lot of them are my age or a little younger or a little older and have disability from the military. I'm not saying they shouldn't have it. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying, they got worn down, even if it was boot camp alone, they got worn down, mentally, physically. I have family members that, I saw, struggling with finances, the embarrassment of, having to borrow money from family and not being able to pay them back and stuff. And people who are just in those kind of situations with the embarrassment and, becoming abusive because they just weren't able to manage their lifestyles and they were so overwhelmed, probably had hypertension, just had all sorts of issues, just from being overworked. And then there's the other side that I've seen of being overworked in a way that's not through academia and not, on the side where people are okay at the end. At least they're making the money at the end. I've seen the other side, which is like people working so hard and not being able to make ends meet and suffering because they don't have the money, having to I'm not shaming people, but having to rely on like shelters or like other people, and their health wasn't they weren't able to maintain their health either. um just spreading too thin, having however many jobs, and you know this is America. That's kind of how it looks like. People don't know. We're not taught how to deal with poverty. We're not taught how to deal with, high demand lifestyles. You kind of just look around and do what everyone around you is doing, and if it doesn't work, we don't usually take the time to step back and like look at what's not working. Um and I know for me there has been a lot for a long time that has not been working. Even though there has been a lot that has been working, there has been a lot that has not been working. Um and I had to make that decision to put my ego aside and be like, look, if you don't have this job position or this job title or this, look on the outside like all your friends with like their expensive apartments or pricey cars, I'm happy for them. This isn't like a jealousy comment, but the pricey cars and the nice apartments and, the credit debt and the student loan debt and the other issues, and I don't look like them. I don't look the way that they look, and people, I have friends that assume that I don't work or do anything. I know that I have friends that assume that. I have friends that don't really approve or understand why I'm making certain decisions with certain jobs or certain things. I have people in my life that are supportive, and they're like, I support you 100%. And some of that support comes from really shocking places, because it's people that in my life I would say I don't really consider them to really be that supportive. But I know that for them to come out from their heart and say that they're supportive, that's out of character for them. That it's hard for them to say that. And so I do think they mean it. I don't think they're just like blowing steam, because they're the kind of people that like will never say like a nice thing, like those kind of people, or the people who are like, oh, like you're not working, or like what are you doing, like what, taking some other route, and people just assuming that I'm not doing anything all day or whatever it is that they're assuming. I had a friend try to like make a business proposal and try to like hire me, because they thought that I wasn't doing anything with my life, kind of, and then they're like, well, you could work for me, and I'm just thinking like, no. Their company was supposed to launch last month, and I don't think it did. So, and I like I said, getting into business with friends is not a good idea. And I did kind of consult someone else about it, and I was kind of like, I don't think this is a good idea. And me and this person don't super get along. And they already kind of have this opinion of me as like a lazy person. And I remember once, way back during the other economic crash, like around 2008 or so, when I was just getting out of grad school, and near that time, or that was like my last year of grad school or something. I was in grad school and then got out of grad school while the economy was still bad, and it was hard finding work. So I kind of had a couple freelance gigs. That's when I was working for that friend's mom, the other friend's mom. That's when I was, I was tutoring. There was something else I was doing that I can't remember, but I had basically 3 jobs. Oh yeah, I was teaching a computer class. So I basically had 3 jobs and was underpaid. And I guess this person that wanted me to go into business with them, they thought that I was doing nothing, and they were kind of like, "Oh, I know that you're not working and you haven't been working for like years." No, that comment came from some other person that I don't even talk to, who I was at their house one day, and they're like, "Oh, like, so how does it feel to like to not work, or like not be working," or whatever they said. They kind of made it sound like I wasn't doing anything. And this person doesn't talk to me. Like we don't talk, really. Like we don't really talk. Like I've been in spaces with them where we're maybe watching sports or like playing video games or like in the background kind of stuff, but we don't like talk. Like we don't hang out. We don't like make plans and like go places together. So I knew that they heard this from someone else. And then I was like, who told you that? Like, who told you I'm not working? I was like, actually, I've got 3 jobs right now. And they're like, oh, so you're underemployed. You're not unemployed. And I'm like, and first of all, I'm like, that's none of your business. Like, what are you talking about? And then that other person who was spreading that rumor was like in the room. And they're like, oh, I thought. And it's like, yeah, you thought, like, you never bothered to ask me. You never thought to ask me first what I'm doing. Like, where did you, and then they decided to tell. And so this is, that person's kind of opinion of me is, work ethic wise. They think that I don't really have a good work ethic. So why would I want to work for someone who already I know has thought that about me for like years, and doesn't know where I'm at, and doesn't know what I'm doing, and doesn't know what I'm involved with. And after asking another friend, about that situation, because this friend is mad at that other friend for some other, like, they were voicing concerns with me, kind of venting, saying, oh, like, I had this other friend of ours, like, working for me, and, like, they were kind of bad-mouthing them. And I was kind of like, I asked that other friend, I was like, kind of what went down? Like, because I know you're level-headed, and now this person's coming asking me. And I'm like, well, if business didn't work out with that other friend, then why would it work out with me? And they already think poorly of me. And so it's like, why would I, why would I bother? Why would I bother? So, um, sometimes it's, dodging the decisions that seem tasty. It seemed like a good pitch, but when I thought about it and I'm like, all the things that this person has told me that they're dealing with and all the bridges they've burned over the past couple years and things, I'm kind of like, I don't really want to involve myself like that. We can hang out, let's just hang out when you want to hang. And other than that, I don't really want to be involved on like a professional level, you know. I don't think that would be good for either of us. I could see that going south. But yeah, just those kind of situations, I just kind of knowing that there's people out there that kind of don't really think highly of my decisions. And not only that they don't think highly of my decisions, but that they're willing to spread rumors or have been in the past and don't fully know what I'm doing and aren't too they haven't been, I don't know, like it hurts. It's hard. It's definitely an ego blow because you definitely want people, you know, to not like look highly at you necessarily, but you don't want, nobody wants someone looking low at them, you know what I mean? So it does kind of make me want to avoid situations. I do notice that. Like there's a situation just the other weekend, a couple weekends back, I had a friend in town and I was meeting their new girlfriend and the typical like it eventually got around to what do you do for work kind of thing. And then it was like, I don't really want to talk about this with somebody I just met and I don't want to explain it to all these other people. So I was pretty vague to my own comfort level. I was like, I'm not going to describe everything. Um, and then there was another situation. Like there've been a few times where it's kind of come up, where it's like, having to talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, and just as social as I am too, it's like it's not easy to like go to raves with your friends or go out to festivals with your friends or go out to like pride festivals with people and go do stuff with people and also know that they're going to ask you about like your work situation or your job situation or whatever. And some people get it, some people don't, so it's kind of like um it's just it does make me want to just like avoid people though, not all people, but like it's not easy to like meet new people, it's dating wise it's kind of one of those things. It's like who wants to date somebody who doesn't have like a steady thing going on. um oh, that's what I was gonna say too. There's the other day when I was out with some friends meeting another person's girlfriend that I met. Um and the whole time, we're sitting there talking about work and I'm just thinking like, geez, this is like my least favorite conversation. And I was kind of more talking about what I'm passionate about. I was like, I'm not gonna talk about this, not like in a mean way, but I was kind of like, this isn't really what I want to talk about. I was like, yeah, right now I'm kind of like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm kind of like focused on this, and like taking a break, and like, but also doing these other things on the financial end, for financial reasons. I've got other stuff that I'm doing, and I was pretty vague. I'm like, I'm not going to explain exactly what I'm doing. And then someone else brought up like, oh yeah, like she was in grad school, like in a PhD program, and that didn't work out. Like, not in a mean way. I think they meant it in like a positive way. And also, this friend was like so exhausted and tired while we were hanging out that when we were sitting there at a coffee shop, they were literally dozing off because they hadn't slept well because of work. And I'm like, okay, like in my head, I'm like, I'm learning from what I'm observing. And I'm like, sometimes, I look around and I'm like, a lot of us don't have it together, just because you've got a 9 to 5 or you're making 6 figures or whatever. I know a lot of people working 9 to 5s. I know a lot of people working over 40-hour work weeks. I know a lot of people who are making a lot of these types of decisions, and they're not doing very well, is what I'm trying to say. Not all of them, but I know people with a variety of, like, some people are doing well, some people aren't. And it doesn't really matter so much how much you're making, how much education you're having. It doesn't always matter. But I know people who by now, in their 30s and 40s are doctors, like have an MD. I know people in their 30s and 40s by now who have doctorates. I know people in their 30s and 40s who have master's degrees, multiple master's degrees, own businesses, own companies, have hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not close to like $1 million, are buying houses, all this kind of. I have friends that are doing the American dream, and it's easy to look around and be like, I wish I had that. But then when I look and I'm like, dude, on your day off, you can't have fun and, just relax because you're so exhausted and so tired and so pressed for energy that you can't stay awake while you're hanging out with someone that you've been trying to schedule with and also haven't been able to schedule with because you're so pressed for time. You can't keep up with your friends or make plans with them. I don't want that to be my life. I don't want that. I wouldn't trade my life for their life if that was the payoff. I wouldn't trade my life for, a life of, someone who I see as like bitter. I wouldn't trade my life for the life of someone who I feel like is super, maybe gossipy or bitter at all different types of people and having trouble managing relationships and boundaries, but they have money, or losing relationships because of whatever the list of reasons might be. I don't think I would trade for that, I'd rather be in my figure it out situation, playing with ideas. Okay, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'd rather have my life as it is, even though on an ego level it can be a bit of a blow, just culturally being around so many people that are so well educated and financially well off. I don't really know that many people that I could say are very well educated, financially well off, and happy. Happy and doing well. And I'm not saying they need to be happy like 100% of the time, but able to actually live their life. I have maybe a couple friends that I see the stuff that they do, how they spend their life and energy, and I'm like, okay, like, they seem like they're kind of like doing what they want to do on their terms. They're holding a job that they like enough that they're not like just looking for the next thing, and just in it for the time. And there's nothing wrong with being in a job just for the time period, but I hope this makes sense. I hope what I'm saying kind of makes sense. And I'm not mentioning these scenarios of stories to make it sound like I know better, but I'm just saying, like, this is my thought process. When I see other people that, it seems like, oh, everything's going well. Oh, I want my life to look like that. Why can't I have what they have? It's coming at a cost that I've already paid that I don't want to engage in anymore. I've been there. I've been in, doctorate programs with people losing their minds, literally, myself included, and being around professors and supervisors in their professions and in their careers, being around people who don't really have it together, who seem like they might have it together, but when you kind of look at it all as one, they don't really have it all together. I've seen that. I've been around that, and um, no, I don't think it's. I don't think it's good. Um, I don't think it's good at all. um, is it good to push? I do think it's good to push, but I think that push has to have a limit to it. It can't have permanent damage that can't be undone. And if it comes to that, that's a sacrifice that the individual makes that choice. I'm not going to make that choice for someone. But it's it's good to mention, because I know a lot of people say, I wish I had more money, I wish I had more this or that. And it's like sometimes to get to the place to have that more money, I've seen what it takes. I'm not saying like just because somebody has money they're not able to balance their lifestyles. Just because somebody, has, yeah. What was that? Okay, this is the last thing I'll say because I was gonna end like 30 minutes ago. Um, what was that? And this doctor hasn't called yet. It's 11:21. They haven't called at all. Um, what was that? What was that? Um, what am I trying to say? Um, uh, uh, sorry, I'm kind of like blanking here. Um, yeah, it's from mid 90s, the movie mid 90s, where I guess kind of spoiler alert, but there's this the main character who they call Sunshine. He is just having a bad situation. I honestly don't even remember what happened, even though I've watched that movie so many times. But something happens where he is just so upset and so like down and just feeling like crap, And I think he was drinking. He got into drinking and had some anger issues and some other issues going on. And he's like 14 or like 11 or something. He's a young guy. He's got some issues going on, and he's there with his skater friends, and I guess he's got respect from a lot of people. And one of his friends is like really good and getting like some attention. And at this event where that friend is getting attention, this main character, he's kind of going around saying hey to everybody. He's got like a 40 in his hand. He's like drinking. And I guess he gets into it with some other guy who's young as well, and kind of had developed some jealousy around him joining the group. And he gets kind of upset, and they start fighting. And he gets so mad. I think that's what happened right before, and he gets like mad and like kind of takes off and or something, and just kind of goes somewhere out by himself. I think this is that scene. And then so basically he had some things going on for a while where he wasn't doing well, and he kind of went out, and he kind of, this other guy sits next to him, the guy who was getting the attention for his skating, and he's like, you wouldn't trade your problems with anybody else, and he's like, this guy, like his, this other friend, like his parents like beat him, or like this other friend, his parents couldn't even like afford to buy him socks, it's like And then he was talking about how his brother, the guy who was talking to him, was talking about how his brother died, and he's like, you wouldn't trade your problems for somebody else's. Like, yeah, you might trade the good things. It's like, okay, maybe there's some tastier grass is greener on the other side kind of situation going on, but it's not just the good. You can't just take the good. Like, it's the good with the bad. Um, you couldn't just take one thing. And there's that other movie, The Butterfly Effect, where it's like, okay, like you go back in time and try to change one thing, but it's like, if you try to change that one bad thing, there might be all this other stuff kind of attached to it. Um, that, okay, if you change that thing, then maybe all this other stuff wouldn't have happened, or there wouldn't have been the learning experience. Um, but just trying to look at things, from different angles. And I notice, when I get too busy, I can't really see those angles. I can't really see those points where I can adjust, or those barriers that are getting in the way, or like those sequences of events where it's like, okay, I did this and this and that, and that's why this is going on in this way. It's like, and now to get back to where I need to be, I need to do this and this and that to get back to that part. Sometimes I can't see that because I'm just in go mode, and that's fine too. But the balance between go mode and rest mode and relax mode and take a break and take a big step back mode, and you know um, you know trying to set aside the ego, trying to set aside the ego, um, set it aside to a place where, I'm doing my thing. I'm living my life. This is my life, my journey. Nobody else can really. I mean, I'll take advice from people, and I'll observe and see, okay, this person's doing this in this way. Like, how are they successful in that? What can I learn from the way that they're maybe improving in this area or that area? What can I learn, from that? And trying to adjust, or certain cultures. Like, I've learned a lot about like food choices and things just from being around people of different cultures. It's like, being around someone of a different culture, you know, sometimes you can kind of see different things. And there can be some extra clarity on the things that they might be doing, just from like noticing it, that, oh, they eat this, or they sleep at this time, or they've got this thing, and that leads them to have health in these other areas, or like it leads them to have relationship satisfaction, or marriage satisfaction, or strong social ties, or good community groups, or whatever it may be, Um, but I just want to encourage people, if you're going through a rough time, it can be easy to get jealous. It can be easy to start looking around, but it's like we've all got our own thing that we're doing for whatever reason, and trying not to lose that focus and lose that sense of purpose, and trying to practice that sense of purpose every day, um, or as often as we can, and learn a lot and practice a lot and push, but not to the detriment of our own health in the long term. I think it's fine to like push and develop those new muscles, develop those new skills. There's always going to be some pain in that. So I'm not saying there should never be any pain involved, and it should always be comfortable and fun and happy and smiles and laughter. It can be that. It can be that. But it might not always be that. Like for me, I've noticed when I've got good community around me, it's a lot easier to kind of have whatever lifestyle pushing or struggles, when I have, like, I remember during that economy crash, a lot of us didn't have work. I was at a church where a lot of people were in their they were mostly older than me, like closer to their 30s, and I was in my 20s. And even people my age, and mostly the message I got was, "You've got a master's. How are you not able to get work?" But I was around a lot of people with master's degrees and all kinds of degrees and all kinds of education and all kinds of things where they were getting laid off from work and had to move back in with family, or they were having this struggle over here or over there. And it wasn't just me. Like, I was around the community of people where we would hang out at a certain church, and we'd be there. We'd hang out 2-3 times a week, and bond. And, I had people to hang out with. Maybe we had no money, but we were able to kind of get out, do stuff, go out, see each other, be together. Nobody was planning some extravagant thing because nobody could afford to do anything too crazy. We would borrow things from each other. We would stay in touch on Voxer. We had this like group Voxer that was just hilarious. I remember once listening to this like 20 to 30 minute long Voxer, back and forth. It's like walkie-talkie. It's like a walkie-talkie app, but you could like save the messages. And I remember I had a group of friends that all went to some shopping center. It was like a Target or something. And they were like back and forth, like, "Hey," these weren't the real names, like, "Hey, Randy, go to the door of the Target." It's like, "I'm at the door." It's like, "No, go to the outer door." And then they would be like, Linda, like, "Oh, I'm still parking." And then Bob, like, "Oh, where's the Target? Oh, I'm at the wrong Target." And it's like, I went through like all these messages because I wasn't there. And it was times like that where I would just be like, man, this was fun. We'd hang out till like 3 a.m. None of us were getting good jobs, we just hang around, and like, everyone eventually got where they needed to be, but it was a struggle for like a year or two. But I wasn't in it alone. This is kind of a different situation because it's like, it is a little more isolated. I do have other people around me that are in the same situation, but we're all like a decade older, and it is a little bit harder. Most people are confused as to like why somebody wouldn't stay put when the situation seems maybe better than their situation or better than what they were wanting for themselves, or maybe better than what they might have for themselves. But the risk I was taking staying there, and the payoff wasn't worth it for me. And I was the one living through it. I was the one dealing with it. These other people weren't living through that and dealing with that. And the fact that I've gone to school and been in school and did that for so long, it's like there's certain other stuff that I just don't really want to do. So even just recognizing stuff like that, there is going to be pushback from the world. There are going to be people who just aren't supportive, who, that's like some of the worst case scenarios that a lot of people like on the social end want to avoid, which is why they'll stay in a stuck position. And I also can't encourage people fully to take a risk, but for the people who are in the position where you're taking a risk and you're just feeling like, man, maybe that was a mistake, you got to know, it's good to have a backup plan, and then you also got to know if that risk is worth it for you. What will it look like when you need to rely on that backup plan? I already relied on my backup plan for 3 months. I went back into case management work that I was actively trying not to be a part of, but I did. I went back into it. That was my backup plan, and I knew I could easily get a job. I got so many interviews and was able to just pick the best fit. I didn't feel limited by job options or by people who wanted me, because I have the experience. So I know I can get a job in case management in a heartbeat. Even if it's not a job that I really want, it's easy for me to get those jobs. They're not easy jobs to do, and they're not jobs I want to do, but if I needed a job in a month, I could go work near Skid Row or somewhere downtown, you know, in a heartbeat, I could probably get a job at like a homeless shelter or something. And it's like, it's not the work I really want right now, but I'm pretty confident that I could get jobs in those fields. And so I'm just, it kind of puts me at ease. This doctor is definitely not going to call. So let me eat. I'm going to eat a little early lunch because I didn't really eat yet. But I had the coffee and obviously it's kicked in. But I hope this is helpful for someone out there. I hope I don't just sound like I'm just complaining and whining and moaning. But I said I was going to start posting more about my thought processes behind things, and this is kind of where I'm at. And it helps me to kind of talk about it out loud because I kind of do see a different perspective where it's like, yeah, you know, my ego's kind of getting in the way, and I'm kind of getting down on myself because my life isn't looking like everybody else's, and I'm getting a little bit of pushback and a little bit of some people not understanding and kind of feeling like I don't want people in the community kind of gossiping about me, because I do still have that. When I'm in LA, I do have that connection with these religious folk that I'm trying not to be so involved with, but with that comes the gossip and the poor boundaries and the just unhealthy emotional stuff. That's part of the game that I have to deal with when I am interacting with those people. So if I want relationships with them, you know, I gotta take that in stride. But okay, I'm actually gonna end this episode. But thanks so much for listening.